Alex, her solution is to quote, build public cooling spaces and smarter cities and use white paint and greenery. Does that even make sense to you? You want me to try to explain her rationale?
I mean, I'm not anywhere near high right now to be able to, comprehend fully exactly what she's talking about.
VOX, it's time to rethink air conditioning. I kid you not. Why? Why ask why? Let's read it for ourselves. What if, I don't know, should I try to read it in her voice? No, I'll try to be a newsy person this time. It's going to be harder as we go along with some of these stories to take them seriously and not mock them through their voices and their fake pompous attitudes that comes through in their writing. What if most American symbol of unsustainable consumption isn't the automobile, but the air conditioner? In cool indoor spaces, it's easy to forget that billions of people around the world don't have cooling, and that air conditioning is worsening the warming that it's supposed to protect us from. Quote, oh no, not a quote yet. There are alternatives. We can build public cooling spaces and smarter cities with fixes like white paint and more greenery. Some experts have hailed heat pump technology as a more efficient option. She has hyperlinks because they're her stories, by the way. But as the planet warms, more of its inhabitants have spare income. AC sales are increasing. 10 air conditioners will be sold every second for the next 30 years, according to the United Nations estimate. Access to air conditioning can literally mean life or death for the young, elderly, and those with medical conditions such as compromised immune system. Trust me, this isn't even the insane portion of the conversation. But how does that feel, gentlemen? What do you have to say about that, Bob?
Well, I think she's foolish. I mean, is she willing to give it up and then live like she's in some village in Kenya? Is
Yeah,
she
no one
willing
needs
to
her
do
to.
that?
No one's making her use her AC. I don't know how.
No,
I don't
no,
know.
no. I mean, air conditioning is just another product of ingenuity and capitalism, and I'm blessed. I feel absolutely blessed to be able to work in an air conditioned office. Right? I mean, without air conditioning, I work in a lab. That equipment wouldn't even be able to stay up. It would overheat.
Alex, her solution is to quote, build public cooling spaces and smarter cities and use white paint and greenery. Does that even make sense to you? You want me to try to explain her rationale?
I mean, I'm not anywhere near high right now to be able to, comprehend fully exactly what she's talking about. But that does sound like something I've heard somebody say when I think they smoke too much. So
Isn't it?
and don't get me wrong. Look, let me, and for full disclosure, I'm a person that sits in my garage. There is no air conditioning in the garage, and I sit in there all year long, whether it's winter or summer. I do try personally to go without air conditioning sometimes. Like when I was driving, so last summer I went 90 days and I was driving. I tried to do 90 days straight with Uber Eats. So I was just driving around every day, doing orders every day. And I was driving a smart car, and the AC did not work in that smart car. And so I was just driving around without air conditioning for the entire summer. Now, I have a much better tolerance, either higher or lower for temperatures than many other people do, but there is no way I'm not going to have air conditioning in my house because Danielle would, if it don't go as cold as she wants it, she gets mad and gets irritating. So there's no way I don't want somebody to be able to have access to air conditioning. I no way, no, 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 no.
I just want to point out the contradiction of their suggestion is to quote, build certain types of cities. She doesn't say retrofit. It's like build certain cities or smarter cities. And then this white paint and greenery. So I have to dig deeper. You guys know I'm going to do it, right? White paint. So literally painting rooftops white is part of their solution. She links to an interview that she did. And this is the quote from the person that she's interviewing about, we have found places that have more greenery. Those are 15 degrees, even 20 degrees cooler than areas that don't have trees. Trees shade. They transpire water, which also cools the surrounding environment. So we're going to build cities and plant trees so you don't have to use your air conditioner, Bob. How's that going to go in your house?
Well, 95-degree Florida. No, that's not going to cut it.
You know how long it takes for a tree to grow and be big enough to give you shade? We've planted 6 little trees, fruit trees, and they are probably the same size or within inches of how they are a year later. That's it. How many years it takes for a tree to give you shade? These people have no sense of reality. It's completely insane. But wait, it only gets crazier. You know it gets crazier. What do you think, guys? I'll let you guys think what you think. What is it that she says in this article? The problem. It's got to go deeper.
Capitalism.
It's got to go deeper. It's got to go deeper.
It's our excesses. It's race. It's
race. Air conditioning has a racist history and present. There it is. You guys probably can't read it, can you?
No, I can't read it. No.
It's just stupid.
Thank God.
Bro, it's so insane. All right. Air conditioning has a racist history and present. You cite New York City statistics. Even though Black residents make up 22% of the population, they account for half of all heat fatalities in the city. What are the ways we see racism play out in disparities in air conditioning and cooling today? Question mark. And then she goes through stuff about people who were enslaved at the 18th century were denied cooling. I kid you not. This person said that. And it goes
We didn't have air conditioners then.
I know. But there's people going, my gosh, that's horrible. It's been centuries and we haven't correct. You know that's what they thought when they read that. Mm-hmm. And then it goes through bias on Black homeowners. It's a lot easier for white homeowners to get houses and to have houses that had air conditioning or cooling through the years after World War II. Then it talks about working class neighborhoods versus a higher percentage of Black and brown residents that are in lower economy areas, so they wouldn't have air conditioning or they have wall units. Then it talks about a heat wave and talks about how a little bit of what you were saying about capitalism, because the strain on the energy grid is because of these private monopolized energy companies, and they'll deliberately shut off the energy grid in order to preserve the integrity of the whole. And the neighborhoods they choose to do that in are the ones that generate the least profit. So her theory is that the energy company, the electric company, will purposely shut off the power grid to the poor neighborhood, but not the rich neighborhood. I have been covering news for a long time. Longer than I thought, Bob. I thought about that recently, and I realized I don't think I've ever had that story. I don't think I've ever seen that story that it's been proven that an electric company turned off power only to the poor neighborhood. Have you?
No, that's just more foolishness. What I would like to see, though, is people like, I don't know, he or she, I can't remember what the author is.
Oh, yeah, let me get to her name. I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I actually have that marked too, because you know what I mean. I gotta know. Her name. She's a complete climate nut job. Her name is Rebecca Lieber, I assume, Leber. She's a white Karen. We covered Karens before.
Yeah.
Here's her bio. Senior reporter at VOX. Rebecca Lieber covers climate change for VOX. Before joining Fox, she was an environmental reporter at Mother Jones, where her investigation exposed gun corruption, fossil fuel industry disinformation. Then it lists some other places she worked. Her articles are, the most recent, obviously, It's Time to Rethink Air Conditioning. Before that, One Policy That Could Challenge the Century of Fossil Fuel Dominance. It's Time to Freak Out About Methane Emissions. There's No Going Back, in quotes, the UN's dire new climate change report. That's August the 9th. How to Redesign Cities That Withstand Heat Waves. And it just goes on and on. This is her job. Right. She's a global warming nut.
Yeah, so I would just say, does Rebecca live the way she writes, right? I mean, I said this about John Kerry, like John Kerry before, he's flying to Ireland to get a award for climate change work that he did. And he said, well, I got to take my private jet there to take care of this business. And, if I'm even going to remotely think you're serious, you got to live like Ed Begley, ride around in a pedal vehicle or something. Somebody who's, he's serious about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He rides a bike. He's been famous for years. He rides a bike. And there are some leftists that do that, but that is not the norm.
No, that's my point. So I don't even want to hear it. If you're not living it, I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it.
Racist air conditioning, Alex. Racist air conditioning.
Hey, there's a YouTube series that I used to watch. I still watch it from time to time. It's called Living Big in a Tiny House. And there's this guy from New Zealand that goes around and interviews people that are living in tiny houses. And if you listen to a lot of these people, what they will say is that they will say, well, we wanted to minimize our carbon footprint. And we wanted to, just live a simpler life and that kind of stuff. You know what? I have a lot of respect for people that are willing to do that in order to minimize their carbon footprint. Like, if you think it's that big of a problem and you want to do something about it, that's a good thing to do. The other thing I'll notice is, and this goes back to the other story that we talked about. This story, the tree story. Do you know where there's a lot of trees? In the country. So if you want to be closer, maybe we should spread everybody out and not bring them all together. The problem is bringing them all together, that if you were to spread everybody out, everything works a little bit better that way. But they don't want to, because it's all about control at the end of the day. Look, they want those shared spaces because they want to be able to have the unvaccinated not go to those shared spaces. It's all a big circle in this aspect where they want to control these areas so they can control society. And it's authoritarian psychopaths. This woman is just another example of that wants to use government to stop everybody from being cool in their house. Look, when the AC or when the electricity goes out, people die. So how many people are you okay with losing? Because I've always heard if you lose just one person, I caught myself, Brandon. I caught myself. If you lose just one person, it's a problem. But these people are annoying.
I want to make sure you understand. This is why you'll never want to fire me from a show, because I can deliver even more from the same lady, same article. Let me show you. It's going to get worse. Are you ready? A new word for you, Alex. And then there's the wealth disparity that we're seeing, especially in developing countries, that air conditioning units have become the maker of class and sometimes ethnic divisions of who can and cannot afford AC. That's why an approach to cooling justice, ways to make sure that everyone has access. Cooling justice, Snitker, right there, baby. Cooling justice. T-shirt number 2, write it down. Cooling justice. Cooling justice. I
promise, Brandon, I wouldn't curse on the show, but it's so hard. It's just
hard. They are the craziest bunch of jackwagons. Amazing.
How do these people breathe without somebody in their ear telling them in and out, in and out, in and out? Oh.
Cooling justice on VOX. Made it through the system. It's a term. Cooling justice. Cooling justice. So here's my second
part of the American English lexicon.
So we cooling. No, COO.
Yeah, man, you gotta be able to spell it right first.
Yeah, spell it right, Snicker. We can't be. we're not like that. We know how to spell. There we go. Cooling justice. All right. What if we do a cooling justice and then we have like the red slash through it?
Hey, we're News Talk with Brandon and Bob. We're here to tell you about some of the facts so you don't have to waste your time watching CNN.
We don't want you wasting any time with CNN.
Or Fox or MSNBC or some of these other guys that are making a whole lot of money.
Et cetera, et cetera.
It's not paying.